The world is happiest at Christmas time. People feel a thrill when church bells chime. Folks remember all their lifelong friends. They found a love that never ends. So let's decide now in this world of ours. We'll have Christmas all the waking hours. Then people in their evening prayer can say, we'll wake to feel the love we love on Christmas Day. I'm very proud of the fact that I started to take piano lessons when I was 12 and a half. And at 14, I wrote my first song called Let's Pretend. I didn't use it until later on in one of the shows that I wrote. But my first show musical that I did was in 1936 for Centennial Men's Club, and I did all the lyrics and the music for it, of which I gave you a copy of. Someone sent that to me back in 1986, a copy of the program, after all these years. Well, we had the war, and I went in and I was an officer. I was a captain in the Air Force. To my piano, I was not sent overseas. I was in the receiving and the maintenance departments of the Oklahoma City Air Depot, which is a very large depot. But I was one of the three officers in charge of on the board of the Officers Club. And the commanding general came in one day and he said, "You're not leaving here." Because at that time, there were many of them, the bigger, higher up, living on the field with their families. And they come into the Officers Club and I'd be playing the piano. And the fellows who flew in would have a clarinet or a saxophone with them. We had a drum set up there and a wonderful guitar player from the maintenance division. And he'd be over there sitting in, and we had music for these people. And so at that time, I was told, "You're not going to leave here," which was fine with me. I had wanted to leave, but yes, I was in head of the group up in Topeka, Kansas, to set up the air depot. I was the head of it. I picked up 5 others of the officers to go with me to set up this firm, and we set up this firm, this depot, to cover the first B-29s that went over to the Pacific. We made slings for the engines. They didn't have makers, so they carried over their own engines on slings, engine slings. And then, of course, when we got up to the depot, it was a mess. It was a mess. There was no, we had all come from a depot in Oklahoma City, which was the epitome. And when we got up there, it was like they threw things anywhere. It didn't make any difference. It was a camera, it was a gun, or anything. It was all over. The place was really a mess. And we got together and we decentralized it. They had it centralized, where there was only one man up here. We decentralized the whole thing and set it up that time. And then one of the men came in, one of the officers came in from further up and took over, and we were relieved of our, but we were there to start it and so forth. 5 young fellows, 2 from Texas, 1 from Columbus, Mississippi, and I don't know, a fellow by the name of Maddox, and I can't remember all of the names, but anyway, we did a good job collectively, and we were very successful. I started writing poetry in the 80s. A lot of poetry. I was in the hospital, in Greenwich Hospital, and I started writing poetry. And I've been doing it ever since. I went into a lunch wagon. Today they call them diners. You ever go into a lunch wagon? There's about 8 seats here and 4 tables around, and I walk in there, and the waitress is yet crying and squealing about her clothesline. This poor thing has a clothesline. So I wrote, I heard a waitress say today, don't take my clothesline away. I'd be lost if I got home and found it wasn't there. I use it for all my pillows and all my wash and wear. Now, a clothesline is a simple piece of rope, outdated and outmoded many years. Yet this poor soul can't live without a clothesline. Just the thought of losing it brought tears. On, in order of importance, the things she hung to dry, when finally, out of curiosity, I had to ask her why. You don't believe me, do you? Was her non-informative reply. She had knocked me flat with an answer that gave me nothing to believe. It was at this point I said, pay your check and leave. Her reason why, I'll never know. But this verse she did inspire. When as the final shot I heard her say, I even own a dryer. Yes, he liked poetry. He liked poetry. He was appreciated. What I did was I had that done in calligraphy and put it in a very beautiful black and gold frame, a good, not a little narrow, but a good one. I had it done in calligraphy, and a congressman from Connecticut took it out to him. If you send anything without somebody representing, it just gets thrown aside, or they check to see if it's got a bomb in it or something. But Reagan did receive it from this, and that's how I happened to get the letter. Now, the letter came from him because it was on buck-colored stationery. If it had been on white stationery, it had been from the secretary. Of course, today I'm in awe of the internet and what you can pick up through Google and things. I mean, it amazes me. As a matter of fact, it's overwhelming for me. The kids can do it better than I can do it, and I really don't get into it. Right now, it doesn't bother me. I don't need it. But when I think about it, what we used to do is sit on the floor and listen to a radio. As kids growing up, we had Christmas, which like everybody else did. We had Christmas in our home, and we had a radio, and then we eventually got a TV. My daddy died when he was 54 years old. That was before we had penicillin, and if we'd had penicillin, he could have been saved, but he died when he was 54. I have a lot of confidence in the Rand Institute. I really do. We have a member, not a member, but a friend here in the building. Why don't you come to mine? I wouldn't change. I was very impressed. I'm very impressed with the 3 floors, the size of the building, the routine you go through, where you see more than one man. So they double check you after you get your drops and so forth. In my experience, I've never come across an institution like that, a setup like that of any kind. I've been to hospitals, but there's a sloppiness about them that you don't get it, read. Well, I was always thought remarkable when I can look at those 3 frames and see them operating on people, where they show them actually doing an operation. I never realized, I mean, I've never seen that done before. I thought that was one of the, and of course the letters on the wall, which I wrote about. I was fascinated. I don't know how long I stood, but I went from all the way down to different letters, which I thought was very unusual. Don't be a follower, be a leader, and keep in control. Keep in control of yourself. Don't be a follower. Don't be a follower, and keep in control.